Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. So congratulations to Dave Aranda, new head football coach at Baylor University, as well as congratulations for LSU's national championship victory as defensive coordinator, now parlaying that into a head coaching opportunity. What does that mean for the Big 12? What does that mean for Texas? What does that mean for LSU? And we're going to break all that down. But first, I want to give a shout out to Boss's Ranch, sponsor of the video. Great folks to partner with, UT fans, Cowboys fans. I tell you that all the time. Check out their links below as well. Great commercials. They have a ton of fun. Very, very creative. Even better product though. Red River Ranch, normal ranch for those of you who can't take some of the heat. Check them out. HEB Cold Produce, best darn ranch in all of Texas. So a familiar face, right? A guy who, has been one of the more celebrated, decorated coordinators in college football, Utah State, Wisconsin, LSU, and highly sought after. And now Baylor secures his services after Matt Rule leaves to go to the NFL. Matt Rule, who rebuilt this Baylor program after they were crippled through the Art Briles era with all of the sexual assaults and sexual abuse tragedies and allegations going on there. And Matt Rule goes from 1-11 to 11-1 this past year, takes them to the Sugar Bowl before they ultimately lost to Georgia. And it's a program on the up. I know Baylor's going to be losing a lot of folks to the NFL and guys that are graduating, as well as, potential retirement of Charlie Brewer. Not that I've heard or he said anything, but I think many of us think it's time for him to walk away from football. So I think this is actually a perfect spot for Dave Aranda, because it's not like he's coming into a team that's like ready to win right away, right now, in terms of inheriting all this returning talent. But Baylor's on an upswing in terms of momentum, in terms of the program, how well coached they've been. And he brings a lot of firepower just from his mental acumen and the clout that he has, bringing in a ring as a champion, and someone who will put together a dynamite staff. And that's what concerns me. And I think where Texas may have an opportunity to strike. We've been talking about on this channel and across UT message boards and on social media about the potential of Frank Oakham joining our staff, coming home, former Texas Longhorn, and being our second defensive line coach. Now, with Dave Aranda in the mix, how does that play out? Has Frank Oakham met with Tom Herman? Have things been discussed? I've heard there's mutual interest there, but at this point I don't think we can confirm at the time of this video if they've met and if that interview has taken place. On the other side of that too, the other coaching spot we need to fill is tight end. Who was Baylor's tight end coach? Joey McGuire, the legendary high school football coaching wizard from Cedar Hill, who was Baylor's tight end coach this past year, and somebody who will be and is a dynamite recruiter for the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We need a tight end coach. It's the one open spot on our offensive coaching staff. And I've heard rumors out there that we may or may not have already extended an offer to Joey McGuire to be our tight ends coach and to help lead the mantle for us in Dallas-Fort Worth alongside Andre Coleman, who's doing some good work there. I've been hearing already. What does, that's something where I think Dave Aranda coming in is also seeing the same thing. And look at the similarities here, or the connections, if you will. Mack Rhoades, who is now the Baylor athletic director, hired Tom Herman when he was at Houston. And Mack Rhoades was the AD at Houston. Mack Rhoades goes to Baylor and hires Tom Herman's college roommate at Cal Lutheran, Dave Aranda. So there's a lot of these strings going around and connections. And not just that, like when, there's a video out there, I'll actually put the link in the description, before the LSU game and Tom Herman's press conference, that, Tom was talking about the dynamics of his relationship with Coach Aranda and how they became friends and where their relationship has gone since they've become coaches at major programs. And another connection was Todd Orlando. For those who don't know, Dave Aranda was the defensive coordinator at Utah State before Todd Orlando came in to replace him and took over as Dave Aranda, excuse me, ultimately went to Wisconsin. And that's the thing about Coach Aranda as well. Wisconsin, he always had a top 10 defense. LSU's overall scoring defense this year, I think, was like 32nd. And they did give up a lot of points and yards. But overall, at LSU, he did a phenomenal job. And it's very clear with the amount of guys he sent into the league. So I first commented on the staff and how that can potentially hurt Texas. This is a very, very big threat coming to Waco, guys. We celebrated when Matt Rule left, when he took Joe Brady with him, and how that immediately impacts us in the short term. However, and on top of that, Baylor's with the graduations, they were ready to win last year, and everything was built up. And then you lose to James Lynch to the NFL as well. I understand all that, but long term, there's concerns because now Baylor has a real football, they replaced the real football coach with another real football coach who has serious recruiting ties and could put together potentially even better staff than even Matt Rule assembled. These are things we really, really need to be paying attention to. Shout out to Bill who messaged me on Facebook and brought up this point. Corey Raymond, who is currently the LSU DB coach, who I think may possibly also be considered to replace Dave Aranda as defensive coordinator at LSU. Those of you who are LSU fans, please chime in with any scuttlebutt you've heard about who could be replacing Coach Aranda. I haven't even gone down that rabbit hole. However, if Corey Raymond doesn't, stick around there, that's somebody who I now hear it could potentially be a lead candidate for the defensive coordinator role for Baylor. He's a home run recruiter. He's a guy that helped put together all those NFL DBs in LSU. And when you're talking about going into kids' living rooms, and we've been talking about player development and recruiting on this channel a ton lately, who has the weight, him or us, right? So that's a concern. And if I'm a Baylor fan, all things considered, with the season we had and knowing that we're going to have to go into more of a rebuild, reload type of mentality, this group and I would be excited about this. Again, short term, there's probably going to be some struggles and some drop off I would expect. I'd be surprised if they just keep the party going like they had last year because they did have a lot of close victories. But when you bring in somebody with a defense, now also what's his staff going to look like offensively? Who's he bring in? He was there with a Joe Brady and saw the influence and how Joe Brady came in working alongside of Joe Burrow, changed LSU's history of their program, their culture, everything. They will forever be grateful to those guys, right? And so Dave Aranda understands that. Dave Aranda understands he's coming into a Big 12 landscape. Now, has he coached in the Big 12? No. But in terms of the impact, he has been around the country. I mentioned earlier his success at Wisconsin. Now, Big 12 is a different type of conference. But if you're holding out and making the money that he was making at LSU for a head coaching opportunity, this is, a home run opportunity for him that came available. Hopefully we're able to poach Joey McGuire from them. I'm really concerned about that and this is an opportunity and a window for Tom Herman to kind of get one over on his buddy, right? And just seeing how the dynamic of that relationship plays out. We got two Cal Lutheran head coaches in the Big 12 now. So overall, I think this is a very, very good hire by Baylor after you lose one of the hottest coaches on the market in a Matt Rule. And I think in the short term, it's definitely advantageous for Texas and if you're an Oklahoma fan and those who are competing against Baylor. But long term, depending on how the staff is going to be key for Coach Aranda, because if he's able to put together a staff and he brings some other guys that he won with, and they're going into kids' living rooms and showing off their rings and the things they've done. And not to say that Tom Herman and Stan Drayton haven't also won national championships. We're aware of that as well. But we now live in a culture and a world, especially in recruiting. What have you done for me lately? So things to pay attention to. Just wanted to make a little quick video about that. Congratulations again to Coach Aranda. And guys, hopefully we're able to fill out our staff with 2 ex-Matt Rule coaches in Joey McGuire, like I said before. And by the way, Joey McGuire, Two things he can give us in recruiting in DFW. I just want to point this out. Instant credibility with him being, the legend that he is, and the ties and all the connections he still has. Instant credibility with the big programs up there. We'll be able to walk in anywhere, and whether it's Denton Guyer or Allen or wherever, anywhere in that region, and command his time and secure these kids and that trust. But the other thing that he can give us is, and I've talked about this too, those hidden gems. When you have a relationship with the coaches, we've talked about this too, about, some of these coaches. Mac Brown was legendary at this. The relationship that he had with Texas high school football coaches, because they will give you the inside scoop on, hey, this kid is being under recruited. Nobody's barely paying attention to him, but he's going to be a D1 stud. Trust me, take another look. Those are the type of guys. Or some kid, we just got this kid in. He's the goods. He's even better than the guy that's getting D1 offers on our team. But him and his family can't afford to go to the camps where they're showcasing all these kids. But trust me, put his high school tape on. He's the goods. Or a smaller program that might be out in the boonies or whatever. Those are the type of insights that only the people that are a part of the network get. Joey McGuire is part of that network. So we need somebody like that on board. I just want to double down on that and say that. But anyway, hopefully we're able to get Frank Oakham, bring him back home, and get Joey McGuire on board as our tight end coach. We'll see what happens. I'm trying to speak it into existence. But, hey, either way, I'm very interested to see how this plays out within the Big 12 landscape. So welcome to the Big 12 Dave Aranda. And guys, I'll be back with a second or two-part video just on the Maniacho situation and Odell and all that stuff going on. I definitely want to chime in there as well. So guys, appreciate y'all. Horns always up.